Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to our Creative Tech webinar series, where we intend to blend creativity, technology, and venture capital, the three pillars of creative tech. As always, I'm Denis Belkovich, co-founder and general partner at Fuel Arts, and my co-host today is Agnieszka Cichocka, the representative at Fuel Arts in the European Union, the founder of Dream and Vision, the company in Poland which helps creative tech development and startup growth in this marvelous country of Central Europe.
Thank you.
Hi,
Thank you,
Agni.
David. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here with you again today. And yes, today we continue our series on Poland creative tech. And we can share with you already that the report will have its release on the 26th of May. So we're waiting impatiently, hopefully together with you. And we are very proud of this report because it will be a 100-page document in Polish and in English, and it will offer a detailed exploration of Poland's vibrant creative tech ecosystem. And we are very grateful to two institutions because together with Fuel Arts, the report is prepared by the Center for Creative Development and is co-financed by the Ministry of Culture and National Heritage of Poland. So this is why we're able to do this report.
Yeah, and in order to support the release and to bring this conversation to life, we launched this Poland Creative Tech webinar series where we feature leading voices from Poland's creative ecosystem, startups, educational institutions, investors, and thought leaders. Finally, today we're going to talk about AI in creative tech. We've touched AI in all of our three prior webinars, but now we are going to focus on specifically AI in the film industry. And I'd like you, Agnieszka, to introduce our today's guest.
Yes, so our today's guest is Matt Szymanowski, Polish-American filmmaker, screenwriter, and producer. Matt, hi, and it's so nice to be here together with you. And I'll just say a couple of words about Matt. Matt's debut film, The Purple Onion, made waves as a Sundance Lab finalist, and today he stands at the frontier of AI-powered storytelling. He comes from Silicon Valley, but now is living in Poland. And he's bridging the worlds of traditional film education and all the cutting-edge digital tools. And Matt has a great perspective. So, you know, I always add some personal things because I know the speakers very well. So Matt adds, you know, to the Polish ecosystem this grand vision and absolute motivation and this feeling that everything is possible. So this is amazing because it's true. So it's great because he really, you know, always says, okay, in Poland, it's going to be the next LA. So I love it, and this is always so heartwarming, you know, that he has this like motivation for the Poland to become the best and top AI film hub in Europe. So, Matt, thanks a lot for being here with us, and probably you want to maybe add something to what I've just said.
Yeah, wow. Thank you for having me. It's so nice to be here, Denis and Aga. Yeah, that's a lot to follow. So, you know, I don't position it that way exactly, but maybe you're reading between the lines with all the things that I'm doing and trying to do, and the vision that I've, you know, shared with you many times before. So yeah, I think this is an interesting time. This is a time for, you know, for pioneers, for mavericks, for the fearless, for the bold. There's a revolution happening. It's because of technology. This is nothing new in a way, because technology comes in and it shakes things up pretty regularly, maybe every decade. I mean, there was, .com, even in terms of video, it's like digital video, CGI, and so now it's AI. And so I've been really focusing on this space and getting on board of like institutions, individuals, companies, and yeah, it's something is growing. It's bigger than me, and I'm just trying to have my small part to move things forward. So that's my little follow-up intro.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So just as a first question, maybe, how do you see AI now transforming the whole filmmaking process, and what excites you the most about this shift?
There's so many different ways to approach this question. It seems it's funny because there is like a cyclical thing that happens as technology comes out. It's like the old systems get shaken up and then new systems are formed. And the one thing that is kind of consistent in all these changes, which is true to some extent, but not always, it's that the gatekeepers suddenly kind of become less important, and that storytelling can now go directly to an audience with these new tools. So really anybody, and these are like, there's personal case studies or folks that I've met all around the world who are becoming influencers in the AI cinema space. And it's a very untraditional way because they're not in LA. They haven't gone through the industry as a PA and climbed up to become a director. Instead, they're sitting at home, they're prompting, you're using the latest tools, and they're creating a social media presence. And suddenly the big companies in LA or the big agencies are hitting them up and saying, hey, we want to work with you because you have a lot of talent and it's very visible. And so, and this change, people have climbed for many years in the traditional industry, whether it's advertising and cinema. It's like these things, this is so new, this space. It's like, 2 years, but in a year, I've seen so much happen. And people are already like leaders, they're visionary artists, directors. So this is, it's a very unique time, and it's similar to what has happened before with digital and CGI, but it's also very different because it's like this time AI is like flipping everything upside down. And I've also recognized that in other parts of the world, there's a lot more progress. Europe, and I mean, while the tools are coming out of the US, there's also a lot of hesitation, and like things are moving forward. But I just came back from Dubai, where I was hosting the AI Film and Ad Festival in Dubai. And it's very exciting because there's so much more progress there, and in terms of industries, companies. And so with those insights, I'm also, trying to speed things up in a way here in Poland. So yeah, I hope I answered a part of your question, I think.
Yeah, well, thank you, Matt. You've answered, in my opinion, in full to the question, but the rest will.
Yeah, let's keep going, right?
It's keep going. It's keep going. Translating into the contemporary AI language. So we can say that our questions are not questions, are prompts. So we are writing prompts towards you, and you are replying to our prompts, not questions. And thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was a very smart note about the way how creative people, how creators are showcasing themselves today. It brings a lot of new tools and a lot of new expertise from the HR agencies, which have to keep an eye on what's going on online, but also to define who isn't there too much AI behind a person, behind a human creativity. But let's get back to our topic, to cinema. My first education was cinema production, so I'm a cinema producer. Before I started art economics. And in your interview for the report, you've spoken about the language today's language becomes more important than visuals in AI-driven cinema. And you've proved that partly in your recent reply, underlining the value of storytelling. So could you please expand on how this changes, how this process changes the current role of the director or screenwriter?
Sure. So it's with these new AI tools, what's so interesting for me, because it's like we can talk about it on a philosophical level, which is important, but now more specifically on a practical level, it's like before there were so many hurdles, so many technical aspects of filmmaking. I mean, writing, obviously, we can talk about writing in a second, but even to direct, to produce, you have to build a whole machine to make a commercial or of course there's always outliers. Somebody can just take a camera and shoot something and it can be beautiful. Those are total outliers. But usually a commercial, a film, in the old system, and I'll just make it clear, old system, new system is with AI. Old system, you had to get partners and distributors and technical people from lighting, grips, cinematographers, production design, makeup, hair, food, catering. It's like you literally need a whole system. And through that system, a director, a vision has to come through from the script to the screen. And it's a very, like the energy needed to sustain the original vision it was always tested through the system, through the process. That process itself is exciting because you get input from other creatives. There's lots of emotions, there's lots of discussions, there's discoveries that happen, but it's a long and kind of draining process in some case. I mean, I love it, the old process, but now with the new system, what's so fascinating, it's literally you're interfacing with a technology that is picking up on your nuances, that's picking up on the way that you frame an idea. So now all of the insight, all of the thoughts, all of the education, all of your experiences, all of your emotions are actually ingrained in the way that you present a prompt, the way that you put your words together. And it's interesting because it's getting processed, and all these nuances are actually they're affecting the final result. Of course, you can write in, I want to use an airy camera. I want to use 1970s film stock. I want noir lighting. Those are very simple, practical things. But it's even the AI picks up on the nuances in between the practical, technical stuff. And that's kind of where the sensibility of the artist, of the creator comes in. So a director can basically, the vision, it just instantly appears. That's the thing. For the image, for the clip, the video clip. And it's a very kind of amazing process. So it's like now it's about your creativity, it's about your imagination, and it can instantly be transferred into a tangible, real video or visual. So this is the time of, it's less of a time of technical expertise, and it's more of a time of creativity, because it's very easy to learn the tools. The tools are crazy easy, and there's so many of them, and there's all these advancements. And again, now it's like, what's your idea? Can you express it in a few prompts? Which is we haven't yet experienced the true disruption that this technology has, because the old systems are so, they're rigid and they don't yet allow this. But it's just, but again, like Dubai, the Middle East, Asia, Africa, India, there's a lot more acceptance of these new tools and a lot less rigid holding on to the old tools. So again, it's fascinating. Creativity is like, boom, it can come out now.
I kind of like this shift, from the tools and being technical into creativity, because, I have a feeling that, with all those tools, you can just concentrate more on your ideas and creativity instead of, how to craft those things. So that's really important. I think we're having a question there, or was
Questions?
that a question, comment?
No, that was
Okay.
the admiration, the acknowledgement
Yes.
of Matt's appearance here.
Yes. Yeah, so I just wanted, because you've already mentioned it a little bit, that in Poland this AI integration into cinema, it remains a little bit limited, let's say, and I'm just wondering what's holding it back, and how can creators push it a little bit forward into maybe like a broader space, or despite this inertia from the institutions like film institutions, or the more, as you call it, the old world.
So it's interesting because, I mean, in general, like Europe is, even the European film industry, and the ad industry is a little bit more experimental, and there's a lot of projects that clients are opening up to the possibilities of AI, and those conversations are happening. We're getting briefs and we're talking to people about AI. So there's more acceptance there, partly because it's very obvious that there's cost saving. So people are just looking to save a few, zloty or euro or dollars. But in the film industry, like, it's interesting because it's so based on bureaucratic maneuvering. A film is made because you show a little bit of talent, and you get a producer. A producer has a relationship with the funding bodies. There is a line of bureaucratic, kind of access that leads to these things. And there's the producer, there's the director, there's the cinematographer, and now those roles are less significant, and it's kind of about just the creative impulse. And because there have been many successful films from Poland in the last few years. There's Oscar winners, Oscar nominated films, but it was all based on the maneuvering of the industry. And I think, like, even independent cinema in Europe or in Poland, it's just, there were very few people that were going to try to figure out how to make a movie outside of the system, outside of their bureaucracy. And so because of that, it's almost like, whoa, the floodgates are open, and now you don't have to go to the system to make a short film. It's a little bit of a shock to the system. So, like in the US, there's already a lot of superstar. I mean, there are individual cases all around Europe, and I've met some amazing talents that just find a way to tell their story. And in the US, there's a lot more of a accepting, or like an environment that is conducive and helpful to innovation and exploration and experimentation. And those things are so key. But in Europe, and in Poland especially, it's been so bureaucratically like stressed and bureaucratically created that, like, for instance, in Poland, I don't see a lot of individual storytellers making films by themselves, even though you can spend a few days and make a film and it'll just come out. But why are these storytellers not telling these stories if the tools are so accessible? I literally think it's a cultural context, it's a historical context, it's Poland's been going so smoothly, rising as an economic power in Europe, gradually building and building because of a very slow and methodical bureaucratic way. And that's good in terms of economics, but in terms of creativity, it's like it's if you're holding on to that way, then it's the opposite of what now AI tools allow you, because you don't have to follow the system. You can just sit and prompt. So, how do we alleviate this? I think this is part of what I'm trying to do, is build initiatives, create groups of people, as you know, Aga, where we are bringing in insights from outside of Poland, insights, people that I meet in all my travels in Germany and in the US, but also recently Dubai, as I mentioned, and essentially like bring those ideas and motivation and excitement around the tools into the old system. So it's going to take a little bit of more time. It takes education. It takes, kind of a bravery. So with various initiatives, this has become my goal in a way, which is probably more than I can chew, but that's why I'm working with amazing people. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. I took it in a few different directions.
We also talked, I think even yesterday, that like those new systems, they need new business models. That like filmmaking is very much based on different grants, etc. So also that maybe those new systems, they need new business models and new ways of like maneuvering around, and yeah, maybe they also need some new institutions. They would that would look into the future a little bit more, right?
Totally. And what's interesting, and I had a chat with a buddy, Todd, from he's based in Los Angeles, and he's the head of AILA, and AILA is this amazing organization with like 20,000+ members, and they've created various initiatives where, because so oftentimes our people need community. Because if there are those outliers, right? Somebody becomes an influencer, somebody becomes, a maverick, they make a few films, they get viral. But oftentimes even like creators, it's like, this is maybe a generalization, but it's like the creative soul needs a safe space to work. And if the safe space was a bureaucratic system that you have to gently maneuver and build your coalitions and things, it's like, to be out on your own, it's kind of scary. Like, whoa, I can make a movie by myself, but people will judge me, but like, I'm all alone. So what I'm seeing in AILA is there's a community being built, and AILA is just one example. There's like, Curious Refuge is a educational platform, but also a community. And, I hosted the first Curious Refuge event in Poland. And the idea is just, we need to come together. We need to create community around the tools, around this new technology. And in that way, it'll give us some support group. So in Poland, it's slow. It's interesting that it's slow. It's like, it's not moving as fast. There are individual pockets of people and groups and, production companies, but everybody's kind of fighting for themselves. And there is unity within these small groups, but there is no institutional unity being encouraged, which is, as we talked, like some of the things I would like to work on by bringing in American tools, by bringing in, like partners from abroad to show them, hey, we've already done it. Now we're doing it here. So yeah, this is, it's like a lot to do, but it's also not difficult. Like, it's just, we're creating, but now how to integrate with the old systems to educate people about the tools, because the old systems in 5 to 10 years will be very different. The old systems won't really work. Maybe some people will drag the old systems into the future, but they'll be the dinosaurs. So now the old systems have to adjust with the new technology. And that is where it's exciting, because I'm not exactly sure how it's going to look. We're now creating that, right? That's the reason for all these communities. But it starts with, again, just an openness and an education. And like, one more thing I'll say, because I can go in many different directions, so you guys got to like steer me as well, is like, you spend 20 years in an industry, and this is just an example. You become so confident in the industry about the way it's run. You don't need new insights. You're sticking to what you know, and that is comfortable and safe. And so, and you have a good career, you make good money. This is the way films are done. This is the way the institution works, the industry works. And a new technology comes disrupting everything. It really tests the individual, or it tests a whole society. Do we hold on, for dear life to the old way? Is this the thing that is the safest? Or are we willing to adjust, accept, realize we don't know that much, because the future is very different than we have been holding on and we've created for ourselves. So this is now a time of basically going into the unknown, which is very exciting, but also very scary.
Yeah, I'll just maybe say just one sentence that I like what you've said, that it's not about replacing always, but it's just like taking the best elements from each system, and just creating something new and something, like future proof, I would say. So it's not, but some people, like I think when they think about the new, it's just they treat it as a replacement of the old thing, and it's not about replacing, it's about looking for new ways, but taking the best elements from the old systems as well.
Yeah, and that's where it becomes also a practical conversation about the tools, the workflows, actually becomes a philosophical conversation. Some people, they don't even want to talk about the philosophical aspect, but I think if we're talking about a whole industry shifting, about a whole like institution or various institutions, then we have to talk about it on a philosophical level, because that is where, like, again, it's actually a very it's a pattern in human progress. There's the desire for stability and comfort and safety, and then there's the desire for change, or not even desire, it's the impulse. These are very human impulses. So the impulse of stability, and then there's the impulse of disruption and progress, which is, there's pros and cons to both. But if we understand that this is the interplay of all of human history, then and it's actually nothing new, that this AI represents this change. And of course, because of science fiction films, because of a fear of the unknown, people, they get very emotional about these changes, when in fact, if we take a bird's eye view and we go like, oh, we're just in another part of human history unfolding now, we need to be ready to change, adjust, and pivot, then we can begin to look at the systems and how they need to change.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt. You've mentioned several times the word scary, and let's glue to this word. There is a common fear that AI might displace jobs in all the industries, and in film industry in particular. From Pular's perspective, I mean, people who do not know how to deal with AI, how to manage AI, will be replaced by the people who know how to manage AI, how to write prompts. So that will be the major shift. So learn, study, educate in AI. But as soon as we're focusing on the film industry, what's your perspective, Matt, how AI can be implemented in the film industry without losing the human element, which hopefully still remains essential, because people are, consumers, the audience in the cinemas are paying money for the directors' names. They're paying money for the superstars, for the actors and actresses' names. They're paying for for the studios' names, and for the awards, that those films have achieved. Still,
yeah, I know, it's like you're hitting a lot of different points here. Like, one thing I'll say is that it's interesting, because there's a good story doesn't it's not dependent on the actors. It's well, let me put it this way: it's not dependent on the name of the actor, it's dependent on the talent of the actor. But we're also in a world where we need to, familiarity of actors or producers or production companies or Hollywood. There's like an associated idea that this is quality, but even Hollywood is now crumbling, and that's why there's all these tariffs, and there's this new way. That's a whole other topic, but it's like they're trying to fix something. But I think there's a bigger issue with the US and the tariffs and now on films. But to get back to your question, a lot of people will lose their jobs, and that is also, it goes with the times, and it goes with the change in technology, because so the question is now, like, how do we prevent those jobs from getting lost, or at least how do we shift into this new world, in this new technology? So it's literally, once again, about education. because, for instance, an AI director becomes a costume designer to some degree, right? Like if it's one person making a film, the AI director is a cinematographer, is a director, is a lighting guy, is everything. But this is not an industry, and this won't be sustainable. So actually what we're starting to see is a like diversification of the new AI roles. I'll give you one very specific example. My buddy, and I won't say names here, but my buddy, he's a very well-established cinematographer, and he is, without even really being like, he's not a prompter necessarily. He hasn't made many films as an AI director, but he understands the tools and the changes. And now he is working on a film that is, it's like going to be one of the first major AI hybrid films. And his role is never been made before. He is a cinematographer of an AI film. And so what is the essential role of the old world cinematographer? Understanding a visual language, understanding the story, conveying the story on a visual, in a visual language, with blocking, with color, with shadow, with light. So how does the cinematographer now do that in the new system without a camera, without a team, like a lighting camera team? And it's like, we're figuring it out right now. So he is going to be a pioneer soon. He's been working quietly behind the scenes, but there's going to be a lot more people like that. But he was open enough to recognize, oh, I have all this education from the Polish Film School and working in, around the world, to take the essence of what he knows and apply it to the new tools. So a production designer, it might be difficult for a makeup person to be an expert in makeup and then move it into AI. Maybe there will be that nuanced AI role where the cinematographer is working on the visual, and then the AI makeup person goes, let's go into the face, let's add paint, let's add eyeliner, let's add more whatever. That might be a role. We might now, this is my projection, I don't know, we'll find out in the next few years, but all the same roles technically could be, like one-to-one transferred over into the AI space. It'll be interesting because, but I think that's also what happens. An industry arrives, and then the industry begins to diversify and get more sophisticated. So we might actually see some of the same roles, but in this shift, which is the scary moment, it's, basically people need to be open and start learning the AI tools so that their insights as a production designer, as a whatever, lighting person, moves into the AI world. So, but again, it's an openness, an education, and understanding the AI tools.
Yeah, but it's so great that in this world, you have a lot of things that are, at the intersection of one and another. I really love it because I know I studied art history as one of the things that I've studied. So, it was like I studied this, but also some things connected to finance and the European relations, etc. And, at that time, because it was a long time ago, people couldn't really understand why I'm doing it, why, if you're interested in one thing, why did you just do just one thing, And I really I've always loved those intersections of things. And, I'm so it's exciting for me that you can that you now learn a lot about art, but also in connection with technology, etc. So I kind of really it's something that I loved 20 years ago already, So I'm happy that the world is going into that direction, really.
Yes, but I totally agree with you, because it's so for instance, here's a specific example. When I first started making movies at the age of 15, 16, I got a camera and I was like, hey, I got some friends, let's all make a movie. And I didn't think in my head that there is a job that is the person holding the camera. There's a job, me talking to the actors, that I have to organize. Hey, is it okay if we shoot in this restaurant? Don't worry, we're not going to interrupt anybody. We just want to shoot over in the corner. We'll be out in 2 hours. They're like, yeah, whatever, go. And I didn't realize then that I'm producing, directing, writing, doing all these things. I told them, hey, bring a shirt, do this. And then it's funny because I remember going to the film school in Poland, and then I thought, like, everybody's like, no, that's not your job. You're a director. Just do this. And then but okay, I made films. I was also producing. No, somebody else does that. So it's like the older you get, the more sophisticated you get in your industry, the more highly focused and specialized it is. But now we're like, it's basically going back to how much do you know about the whole process, because that will give you more insight and more ability to express yourself. And it's the same thing goes for another way to sum up that idea. This is no longer a time of specialists in a very narrow thing, but it's more of an idea of generalists and creative thinkers. And the creative thinkers are the ones that can find ways to connect, bigger ideas. And one more example, when I went to university, I initially got in as a screenwriter, and then I thought, this is such a specific thing. Screenwriting isn't anything. It's just to learn how to write using this format of a script. And I thought, that's so narrow. I don't need this. And then I decided to do a humanities degree. And what's interesting, at the university in Los Angeles where I went, the humanities degree was the one degree that allowed you to pick from all the liberal arts. So essentially I can make my own degree. It's like, well, what classes do you like? I like history, I like psychology, I like creative writing, and I got to create this own thing. And for a long time, I thought, well, great, I'm not going to have a job because I'm not a specialist. I'm just a human person. And then I went into film. But now is the time that how much do you know about everything, and how much can you communicate that through, community building, building institutions, changing systems, working in education, working in cinema. So I'm basically finding that all of my interests are kind of activated thanks to AI, which is very exciting.
It's very interesting what you said about multifunctional knowledge, multifunctional essence of not even the future, but the today's cinema workers. Let's compare it with football.
Mm-hmm.
Because nowadays a lot of coaches, they prefer multifunctional players who could be defenders, midfielders, forwards, even goalkeepers if they need. But the reason I wanted to compare it is to find the differences and similarities. Because, for instance, in football, why do we need those multifunctional players? Because they can occasionally, and very surprising, the main thing, surprising for their competitors, for their rivals, for the other team, appear on this or that position.
Exactly.
So that misleads their competitors. Mm-hmm. In the cinema industry, I assume from my experience, maybe you will argue with me, but there is, the reason why we speak, why cinema industry needs multifunctional players is not because we want to surprise our rivals, because our rivals are inside us. They are our laziness and other, and the market and bad script writes and so on. So in your opinion, and from your experience, when exactly does the industry need that multifunctionality? Not only because, in cases where a director should substitute stuntman who just missed the train or missed to wake up because he missed the alarm clock. But so what's the essence of substitution? From my perspective, I'm not trying to reply instead of you, but like if we talk about management, so why a manager of every process, like executive director, executive producer, line producer, whatever, why he or she needs to be multifunctional? Because they need to know what to demand from others. And the best way to know what to demand from others is to show themselves the example. Once shown, the example is better accepted. So, from your perspective, in what case does the film industry needs multifunctionality of the filmmakers?
Yeah, well, it's like, let me put it this way. I think primarily, if we can connect with people on a human level, then, and the human level is beyond even function, beyond it's like your specialty, then we can get through to each other. And if we know what we want to achieve, if we have a vision or a call it a North Star, then and the way that we can communicate our North Star, the thing that drives us, like communicate it in as many different from the perspective of many different paradigms, from the historical paradigm, from a psychological paradigm, from a creative paradigm. If we're able to communicate it, then we can truly communicate with another person. And it's like at that point, and this is so important for, which is why I'm kind of against like the arts being so specialized. Because if you're only thinking of the world from the perspective of a screenwriter, which is a very technical process, then like I think it's almost granted, the whole world can fit into screenwriting, the whole world can fit into directing. But if you're only learning about directing, you're not learning about the world. You're not learning, and you're not able to communicate the most human elements of, like a film should communicate humanity. It doesn't communicate directing. So like I want to give you a recent example. I was talking to some folks about even Pawlikowski. So Paweł Pawlikowski, who did Cold War, Ida. But it was interesting. I found out how he made his English film, My Summer of Love, right? His first narrative English film, which was a beautiful film. And I realized, or I learned, that there was no solid script, and it was basically a whole bunch of notes. I don't know the details how he got across to the film financiers and the funders and the producers, but somehow they believed in his vision. He made some documentary films that were well received, and somehow that momentum got him to get a rough script greenlit. And then he shot the rough script. He edited they shot it, they edited it, and half the film was missing. And they had like black, frames. And he would explain to the producers, he says, oh, this is where we need to shoot this. We need to shoot this. We need to shoot this. But I didn't know we needed to shoot those until we shot the first part. So now I know that we need this emotional beat. We need the actor to do this. And surprisingly, the team is like, okay, well, I guess let's find money to shoot that, because the guy seems like he knows what he's talking about. So let's do it. And he went through this process a few times. And so it was they did it, and it's a beautiful film. And so it's funny because these new times are kind of like that, where post-production, production, pre-production, it's all blended together. Because if you approach art, if you approach cinema from a very rigid perspective, which is the way, unfortunately, the whole Polish film industry approaches it, and to their detriment, which is a strange paradox, to build a system, you have to have rules and regulations. But then those rules and regulations, they stifle the creative process. And so if you're unable to remove the stifling aspect, you're limiting the potential. So Pawlikowski had the opportunity to play, and just like any true artist, creator, visionary, storyteller, they have to be able to play. And that play is now very achievable with these new AI tools, unlike ever before, because you can prompt something, you can edit your film, and you're like, you know what, I actually need to rewrite the first 3 sections. I need to regenerate these images. So now the whole process is a creative process that's mixed up a little bit. So this is also an exciting part. But again, the problem is, how do we create a bigger industry around tools that are so flexible, so elastic? And the instinct will be, because again, this is a cyclical pattern of human behavior. It's like we have to create now a system that allows creativity to flourish this way, but we can't do it too strictly, because it'll again stifle creativity. So this is my long answer to your very good question. How, and you know what, I actually forgot your question now. I've gone so far, but I hope I answered. Aga, maybe you can help. What was the question?
Well, I don't remember the question, of course, as well, but I just wanted to
Neither me.
I just wanted to add that maybe
We're having a
also,
webinar. Who remembers questions there?
Questions. This is the conversation.
Next time, maybe we'll just post the questions there, so that we don't forget. So
Multifunctionality. It was multifunctionality.
Yes.
On the,
so this month, exactly. It's all about multifunctionality. Stepping in, realizing, taking a big picture approach. Does this work? Does this not? So it's this multifunctionality, which is very helpful for AI, helpful for creativity. And again, creativity is the most important thing. Sorry, go, Aga, you want to?
No, it's okay, Matt. I just wanted to prompt that our today's webinar movie. Let's call it the movie. Our today's film, audiovisual production, product. So is limited to 60 minutes. So the script is limited to 60 minutes. So we have 12 minutes in stock and 3 questions left. So let's make it like 3 minutes per answer, and then the final summary. Yes, yeah. Let's shoot some shorts. Let's shoot some short movies.
No problem.
Let's change the category.
Okay, I just wanted to add some. Sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Aga.
No, I just wanted to add something which is connected with my next question, actually, that it's like we never, I think, mention it, but there is so much around creativity. I mean, in terms of trust, that, like what you were telling about Pawlikowski, it was like a lot about trust. They trusted him, so it's about adaptability, about trust, etc. And I think, nowadays we would need many more conversations about it as well, I think, because you just kind of need to follow the vision. But also trust is a little bit around the next question that I want to ask, is about all the ethical boundaries, do you see being tested with the AI generated actors, the voices, deep fakes, etc., because it doesn't help it, right? So what do you think about it?
Great. So it's interesting because there is a lot of conversation, I mean, from Hollywood to Europe and Poland and the AI Act, and about the ethics of it. And so I have 2 responses that are maybe paradoxical. On one level, I think, because the big question is, where is all of this, whatever we're generating, where is it coming from? It's coming from, AI that has scraped the internet and basically used all the copyrighted stuff in the past that has been created as a reference material. And then therefore it's hard to find out who should be credited. This idea is similar to that idea. Do we have to pay that person because we generated this, which is similar? And it's actually a nebulous, I understand it on one level, but it's a very nebulous, abstract argument, because it's a moral argument. In morality, it's very hard to to just quantify and simplify. And more of Hollywood and AI, like Sam Altman recently said, he's like, we need to rethink copyright laws because copyright laws aren't inherent human laws. They're not biblical. They're not pre-biblical. They're like 150 years old, if that. And like the idea of owning something like intellectual property. So that is a system that humans created. And perhaps now we're at a time where we need to rethink those rules. And it's very difficult because there's a lot of like, I see the argument, well, I have spent so much time building an idea, getting my references, creating something that is mine. That I wrote this, I made this movie, nobody can use it to make something else. And I get that. But then simultaneously, every artist, and this is an argument I've heard a few times now, every artist is standing on the shoulders of previous artists. Every great thinker, idea, generator is generating ideas not from a void. We are living in a society. Society has decades and centuries of creativity. That creativity, like if humans are like AI, let's just say for a moment, for the sake of argument, humans are idea generators. We prompt ideas out into the world, whether it's with a camera, a pen, or a new, typing prompt. We had to learn, we had to gather all the data. We humans had to scrape humanity of all the information that came before in order to come up with that idea. So AI is, when AI does it, it's bad. It's bad.
It's more, about copying instead of an inspiration, right? Because when humans are scrapping, like the humanity, we're just inspired by so many different things, but it's like with AI now, we're more talking about, like copying things and writing the same, like style, thing, etc., instead of, being inspired, right?
True. And there's a lot of limitations on the tools, because if you say, I want to make something in the style of Tim Burton, it'll say you're violating the copyright. So you have to, so now you have to find creative ways to use words to describe Tim Burton without saying Tim Burton, which is also like, is that moral or immoral?
Yeah.
It's a creative way. We're trying to find a creative way to become criminals,
Well, maybe, but what's in this case, what's a criminal, like,
yeah.
Well, that's a good point. From my perspective, it's better to pay Tim Burton once someone is using his, style, like just 0.0000 cent, but paying. And in our opinion, I mean, at Feel Arts, we believe that as soon as large learning models are being trained continuously on the human heritage, on human knowledge, so the next step would be to determine who exactly is responsible for this or that slice of information, and then paying them royalties, because once people are using their expertise, the sources should be paid.
So therefore, anything that Tim Burton makes should also give money to the trust or to the family of Edgar Allan Poe, Mary, Frankenstein, Mary Shelley. So it's like, and then you can actually, with that logic, you can go back all the way to the beginning of humanity, and all those people should technically get some kind of financial, piece of the pie. To use that thinking. So it's hard.
That's a genius idea. I've never thought of that.
How far back do we want to go?
But there are but the law says how long back we go, right? So this is like
until we lose all the money.
So therefore, the laws themselves are fabricated in order to create a temporary system that we have to abide by, which is arbitrary, but we call it morality. I don't know, like I can argue both sides and I don't have an answer in the end.
Okay.
Good. So, but we are pretty sure you'll have the answer to our next question. Better say we combine several questions into one. You are a unique person, but of course we are inviting unique persons to our Polish Creative Tech webinar series. unique. Why? Because a lot of Europeans are happy to relocate to the States. A lot of startups are happy to relocate to the United States, especially, I mean, Silicon Valley, the startup epicenter, and LA, the filmmaking epicenter of the whole world. And but you receive your education, you receive your experience, and you're bringing that back to Poland, trying to implement it there. So I would say I wouldn't call it scaling. I would say reverse scaling, but that's even more honorable and respectful, because I mean, it should be respected, and you as a person who's trying to implement it. So you've participated in different international cinema events. In your vision, so
In 3 minutes.
yes, in 3 minutes, how you see Poland's development, film institutions, investors, educators, those who want to improve the future of storytelling. So what advice, based on your expertise, would you give to Poland creatives?
Sure. So first of all, it's like I never thought of this as a noble cause, or like there is some irony in the fact that my parents left Poland for a better opportunity. They got to Silicon Valley, and I grew up there. And it's like, wow, why leave Silicon Valley? You're at the height of technology and, maybe in some sense propaganda and ideology. It's all coming from Silicon Valley, and also Hollywood, where I went to school and I lived for a while and I worked there. So, but there is no like noble, unfortunately, there is no noble. I have a mission to, instead, I think it's just following an instinct. And the instinct has brought me to Poland during the pandemic. And now, with the experience that I have from Silicon Valley, working in big tech, working in big agencies in Hollywood and Netflix, and it's like it's a very unique, diverse experience, with education and teaching as well. I just found myself in Poland because I'm like, I want to get away from the pandemic, and I always liked Poland because I studied here, my family's here, and then this AI thing awoke in me. It activated in me all of those experiences that I see can now be implemented in a system that is going to need change, and not change like I know better, but like, wow, the future is coming. Are we ready? Let's figure this out. So it's kind of more like, it's almost a little bit of a selfish, like, I think I can help in some ways, but it's almost like I'm still trying, there's lots of conversations going. So, but in the end, I think as a creative person, it's not about systems. I think that's the thing. We put so much faith into systems. So this is an opportunity to turn it around and say, like, we are the system. The humans are the system. And it's the human that has the power to create now with just prompts. But now we need to refocus, put the emphasis on humans, and build new systems around humans, not about bureaucracy. Because the gatekeepers are all around us, and they're the ones like, are you good enough? Do you have what it takes? And it's like, well, just look at the videos, look at what has been created. And again, it's ultimately, it's about us. It's about the humans, and that really is the most important thing. Following the instinct, following the truth that's your own truth.
So your own truth is returning back with all of your experience to your motherland, to your historical motherland. That's your truth.
My parents' country is it's my home away from home. So and now I'm doing AI cinema here in Poland, which I would have never known this a few years back.
Cool. Thank you so much, Matt, for participating in both the report and at our webinars. For our audience, we should remind that on the 26th of May, the release of the Polish Creative Tech Report is scheduled, and before that, you can join us every week to know more about this vibrant ecosystem with the top voices from AI, from art, from tech, from venture capital.
Thank you so much for having me, Dennis, Aga. I really appreciate the intro or the opportunity here for this podcast. So thanks again. Great chat.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you again, and see you in a week.
See you next
And
week.
later.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.